I was reading the book of Daniel, and as I was reading, I came across the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And a few things about that story really stuck out to me. One of those things was their faith. You see, when King Nebuchadnezzar had ordered them to bow before his idol or be thrown into a fiery furnace, they said something that really struck my attention. They said, we will not bow. And this is me just paraphrasing, but they basically said that they were not going to bow to, the idol, and that God was going to save them. They know and they believed that God was faithful and that he was going to come and save them. But even if he doesn't, they still trust him, they still believe in him, they still choose their God over the idol that Nebuchadnezzar wanted them to bow down to. And it really struck me because they had so much faith in God to the point where they were like, you know what, even if he doesn't come through for me, I'm about to be thrown into this fiery furnace, but even if he doesn't come through, it's okay. Even if he doesn't save me in the way that I think he should save me, it is okay. Are you okay with God not coming through for you the way that you want him to come through for you? Because a lot of times we want, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego blessings, but we don't want their faith. We don't want their struggles. We don't want their trials. We don't want what they went through, but we want their blessings. We want God to come through for us. We want him to be in the fire with us. But how can he be in the fire with us if we don't even go through fire? We want Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego blessings. We want Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego upliftment, but we don't want their faith. Another thing I realized from this story is that new levels often come with new testings. I don't know if you've ever heard that saying, new levels, new devils, but it's actually true because in the previous chapter, Daniel chapter 2, Daniel had interpreted King Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And because of that interpretation, Nebuchadnezzar had honored Daniel in a special way. And because of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had also been honored and put in a place of high authority. And so we see in the next chapter, chapter 3, which is where, they're going through the situation now with Nebuchadnezzar. And they could have looked at the situation and just thought, I've now been put in a place of authority. I'm comfortable. I'm really enjoying this life. I'm enjoying the situation. Israel is in captivity under Babylon. I don't want to suffer. And they could have just, out of ease, just, submitted to what Nebuchadnezzar wanted and fell down and just bowed down, just compromised and bowed down to the idol. But they chose not to, even in a comfortable position, even in a situation that, would have been easy for them to actually just compromise and move on with everything that, they were having at the time, move on with the, the benefits of this new position, or move on with the comfort that came with this newfound, luxury that they had. It would have been a lot easier for them to actually just submit to what Nebuchadnezzar was asking them to do. But they chose not to, and instead they chose to hold steadfast to God. They chose to hold steadfast to their beliefs and not to compromise on their values. Another thing we can learn from their story is simply the fact that because we are going through things in life does not mean God is with us. I mean, God allowed them to go through the fire. At any point in the story, God could have come down, or he could have sent an angel to disrupt the whole thing and save Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But no, he allowed the whole thing to go on, even to the point where they were thrown into the fire. Nothing happened. God did not do anything. He did not send an angel down, which simply means that when we go through things in life, when we go through trials, when we go through problems, it does not mean that God is not with us, or it does not negate the fact that God is with us. It could just simply be that God wants you to go through that situation for whatever reason that he may have. But it doesn't mean that he's not with you, and it doesn't mean that he's not coming for you. He may just not be coming in the way that you think he is. With the Hebrew boys, he allowed them to go through everything, even to the point where they were put into the fire. And all he did was to come in the fire with them, to bear that burden with them, to take up that yoke, that pain with them. He could have chosen at any point to come into the situation, but he didn't. He chose to come in the fire. He chose to be the fourth man in the fire, to take that yoke and to bear that burden with them. So sometimes when we go through things in life, don't think that God is not with you because of what you're going through. And don't negate the fact that God can come through for you. He may just not be coming in the way that you think he should come. And my ultimate takeaway from their story is the fact that God was glorified. In every single thing that happened in this story, we can see here how God was glorified, because when King Nebuchadnezzar and everyone else saw that there was another in the fire with them, when they saw that Jesus was in the fire with them, they quickly brought them out. And it was like God was glorified. Like we could see all over the land that God was glorified, because Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego chose to stand in faith and to honor God, to honor their values, not to compromise on their values. God was ultimately glorified. Will God ultimately be glorified in your life? Because we're going to go through trials, we're going to go through temptations, we're going to go through things in life that are unfavorable. But will God ultimately be glorified in your life? Will you stand strong till the very end?